Good afternoon and welcome to this session, which will focus on sparking neighborhood dialogues, India and its neighbors. This is a special session and we are honored to have with us the Honorable Union Minister of State for External Affairs and of Education, Dr. Rajkumar Ranjan Singh. Sir, if I may, Symbiosis was established 50 golden years ago by a botany professor, Dr. S.P. Muzumdar, who compassionately responded to the plight and the concerns of African and Asian students who came to Pune to study at that time. Professor Dr. S.P. Muzumdar established Symbiosis as a home away from home for these international students. And since then, we have grown to become a multicultural, multidisciplinary university with an unwavering commitment to Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family. I'm now happy to invite Chancellor Professor Dr. S.P. Muzumdar to deliver his opening remarks.
Okay. Namaste, Dr. Singh. I'm excited and I'm delighted that an academician who is also a minister, and that too of Ministry of External Affairs, participating in our seminar. So like you, I was a professor of botany in Ferguson College. And at that time I realized the importance of international students in Pune. It may interest you to know that Pune is a favored destination of international students. And there are about 20,000 foreign students in Pune from 55 different countries, mostly from Afro-Asian countries. There are a number of problems like admission to good colleges, accommodation, and homesickness. They come away from their parents and their relatives and friends. And they have, first problem is homesickness. But they also have problems of admissions, accommodations, as I told you. But the social problem was really sad. They feel that whereas Pune people said, put red carpet for white students coming from England or America or France, we are being neglected and often discriminated. And as a teacher, I found that this was not a good situation. And we thought that if we can help them during their student days and create a home away from home for these foreign students, they will become our ambassadors of goodwill for our country. And that is how this organization was established in 1971, first as Symbiosis International Cultural Center. We used to bring foreign and Indian students together on various social and cultural activities like Eid, Bogies, Eid, Christmas. And we used to create a dialogue between Indian and foreign students so that they will become friends, they will become brothers, and that will ultimately lead to international understanding. Our motto right from inception was Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, world is one family. Now, little later we realized that perhaps education is the best medium to bring foreign and Indian students together so that they will live together and stay together on the same campus for a longer period. And longer the period, better will be the understanding, effective will be the friendship between them. And I'm very happy to tell you that we started educational institutions. We have about 70 different institutions in different parts of our country. We have 40,000 students, as I told you, from 85 different countries and also from all states of our country. So I will be happy to know that since you come from Manipur, so many Manipur students in Pune, Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, so many, even Sikkim. And believe me, they are very intelligent. Their communication skills are much better. But unfortunately, what has happened is our students in Pune think that they are like other foreign students, they are also foreign students. Perhaps because of their Mongolian fishes and all that. And they have also same problems as international students. So you will be happy to know that Symbiosis was the first organization to establish what we call Ishanya Center. We have a students' body. There are so many, there are about 1 lakh people working in different organizations from northeastern states. So it's a big population, and we are constructing a special building which we call Ishan in our city. This is just for information. And I sincerely urge upon you to visit that international center and our Ishanya Center and meet. In fact, had it been a physical conference, I would have invited at least 100 Manipuri students to interact with you.
Great.
The background about Symbiosis. As you know, the government of India deemed to be university status. And this year, Symbiosis celebrated Golden Jubilee. I am extremely happy to inform you that Prime Minister Narendra Modi, normally presidents and prime ministers, they don't do any function to private universities. But Narendra Modi made an exception and he visited our university in Pune and was with us for nearly an hour and he delivered a wonderful speech. The point is, we are celebrating Golden Jubilee, and I, as a teacher like you, feel that I have contributed something towards the international understanding. So, be that as it may, every year we organize 2 important conferences. One is Higher Education, International Higher Education Conference, in which all of us, academicians, politicians, diplomats, they participate. And second is the Conference on International Relations. Because international relations, we have an Institute for International Relations in which the retired ambassadors in Pune, they teach the students. And I feel that these 2 conferences are the most important and prestigious conferences of our university. As I told you, sir, the motto of Symbiosis is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And this particular, and even Modi ji in his lecture mentioned that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam will also be more effective provided India is strong, Shrestha Bharat, Just Bharat. That is what he suggested to us. I think very, very right. Be that as it may, these conferences go a long way in bringing academicians, diplomats, ministers, administrators, etc. together with a view to see the ways and means whereby how education can realize in reality the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Because, as you know, sir, the nations are divided, there are agitations on the religion basis, so many dividing factors are there, and we are, instead of coming together, we are going away further and further from each other. There is globalization, there is a global village because of advances in technology, so that people have come together. But you will agree with me that minds have not come together. There is globalization of economy, there is globalization of ecology, there is globalization of so many other things. But unfortunately, minds of people from different countries, different cultures, they are not coming together. And we are exploring ways and means as to how education can play a big role in promoting the age-old Upanishadic concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So this is the point which I would like to make. Another point, sir, that I would like to make is that Vivekananda had predicted that 20th century belonged to Westerners. But he predicted that 21st century will belong to India. And as a teacher, I feel that it is only through education, and that too quality education, which will combine the ancient Indian wisdom and Western technological dynamism, that this particular prediction of Swami Vivekananda will come true. Sir, many years ago, I happened to read a very, very interesting book. And the title of the book is Thunder from the East. And the authors are, one is Mr. Nicholas Kristoff and his wife Cheryl Udil. And these two authors argue. And the title of the, as I told you, it is Thunder from the East, a portrait of rising Asia. So the authors think that there has been 500 years dominance of Western countries all over the world. But now time has come when the center of power will slowly move from Western countries to Asian countries. And that is how he says that Asia is rising. Surprisingly, he identified two countries where the center of power will ultimately sit. Not in Japan, not in other countries, Asian countries, but only two countries, China and India. Now, between the two countries, in which country the center of power will settle now? He predicts that in spite of the fact that China's economy is much better than Indian economy, Chinese have more weapons, more tanks, more missiles, more, what should I say, soldiers. Still, he feels that India scores over China, not in terms of material achievements or military achievements, but India scores over China because it has a rich ancient tradition, number one. Number two, it is free judiciary. Number three, it is a free press, and after all, and most importantly, democracy. So, if you see the prediction of Swami Vivekananda and the prediction made by these two American authors of Thunder from the East, there will open up a possibility that a day will come when India will be a Jagat Guru, as Vivekananda used to say. But I do feel that Jagat Guru India will be Jagat Guru only through education, which means India will be shaped as Jagat Guru in the classrooms, in the laboratories, and libraries of our universities. And that is why we are organizing this seminar, motivating our students, teachers, and others to take pride in our Indian ancient culture and also study the technological progress made by Western countries. So, this is the crux and soul of this seminar, and I'm very happy that hundreds and thousands of students, including those from your states, carefully listening and watching this particular program. I only feel that sooner than later, you will find time to personally visit our university and guide students and faculty as far as Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is concerned. as far as the power of education is concerned, as far as the role of education, especially higher education, in shaping a very happy world, peaceful world, where there will be no conflicts, no wars, no battles, and the happiness index of our country will be considerably increased. With these two words, I welcome you on behalf of Symbiosis International University and wish you all the best. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. A postgraduate in geography and a PhD from Guwahati University, Dr. R.K. Ranjan Singh began his career, and this is of special significance for all of us today, in higher education as a lecturer, assistant professor, and then on to be a deputy registrar and registrar. He also served as director in charge of the UGC Academic Staff College and College Development Director of Manipur University. He has published 8 books and numerous contributions to national and international journals and publications. He then moved on to join electoral politics in 2013. There he participated in several national and international consultative meetings on human resource management, security sector reforms, and land and livelihood rights of indigenous peoples. Since his election as a member of the 17th Lok Sabha in 2019,
Please carry on.
Dr. Singh has actively participated as a member to the parliamentary committees on Central Council of Health and Family Welfare, Standing Committee for Science and Technology, Environment and Forest and Climate Change, Consultative Committee for the Ministry of Development of Northeastern Region, and the Parliamentary Rules Committee. We're indeed honored, sir, to have you, and I invite you to deliver your keynote address.
Good afternoon, all the respected colleagues of the Symbiosis University. First of all, the esteemed patron, Professor S.B. Majumdarji, founder and president, Symbiosis, and Chancellor, SIU India. Is a very illuminating information was given to me, and it's a very thankful to you for that. And also mentor, Dr. Vijaya Yarbadekar ji, Professor Chancellor, and Dr. Rajni Gupta ji, Vice Chancellor, and Dr. Anita Patnakar, Deputy Director, SCIE, and Organizing Secretary, MS Amrut Ruhikar, the Head of International Admission and International Promotion, and other who are joining on this program. I salute from Imphal, Manipur. My warm greeting to all. At the outset, let me congratulate the Symbiosis International DIM University, Association of Indian University AIU, and all other agencies involved in organizing the 6th edition of International Conference on Internationalization of Higher Education. Countries in our neighborhood are of special significance to us. Our ties with these countries are underpinned by a shared history and culture. Policy initiatives taken by India and its neighbors have implications for each other. Education connectivity can significantly influence diplomatic relations between nations. At the instance of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, India accord the highest priority to our relations with the countries in our neighborhood. Under the Neighborhood First policy, it is this country which come first and foremost among our foreign policy priorities. India has emerged as the educational hub in its neighborhood. At many given time, tens of thousands of students from neighboring countries are enrolled in Indian institutions ranging from primary school to super specialized training institutions. Government of India National Education Policy 2020 that was formulated under the visionary leadership of our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, envisages several initiatives for internationalization in education and promoting India as a global study destination by providing premium education at affordable costs. These initiatives would help in having large numbers of international students studying in India and provide greater mobility to students in India who may wish to visit, study at transfer credit to, or carry out research at institutions abroad and vice versa. The overall thrust involved promoting India as a global studies destination, providing premium education at affordable cost. Secondly, promoting research, teaching, collaborations, and faculty-student exchanges with high-quality foreign institutions. Third, encouraging high-performing Indian university to set up campuses in other countries and similarly facilitating selected university from the world to operate in India, for which we will soon be ready with the necessary regulations and guidelines. You would be happy to know that under the guidance of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, we have taken many steps towards achieving these objectives. In order to promote multidisciplinary and flexibility in our program, we have allowed students to take up subject cutting across streams and are encouraging institutions to collaborate with each other towards sharing of their resources to promote multidisciplinary. We have set up an academic bank of credit where students will be able to park their credits earned under a given program to be used as required. A common portal is being created which will help information and links to all top institutions with details of all programs being provided by them. This will make it convenient for international students interested in studying in India to go through their research and admission processes. We will very soon be issuing regulation to allow tuning joint and dual degree between India and foreign institutions, particularly an Indians and a foreign institutions. This will open up a lot of opportunities for students' mobility between our students. We have also allowed that up to 40% or on any program can be done through online means also. We are also very keen to provide international students coming to our institutions with a very happy and healthy experience. Towards this end, we are setting up international student offices in institutions that will handhold them through all required procedures, help them settle down in the new environment and build social connects. We currently have several schemes aimed at internationalization of education. A major scheme that help enhance inward mobility of students to India is the Study in India program launched in 2018. This program encourages international students to explore valuable educational opportunities provided by the top Indian universities. Indian higher education institutions provide technical expertise across a diverse range of courses, from STEM to non-STEM courses, and includes programs of study in disciplines such as yoga and Buddhist studies. Since its inception, Study in India as a brand and been consistently growing with application for admission into higher education institutions in India, coming from more countries every year. The Study in India program partners up with higher education institutions in India that have National Assessment and Accreditation Council, NAAC, score of 3.26 and above, or that are ranked among the top 100 institutes by the National Institutional Ranking Framework. All institutions fulfilling these criteria partner with Study in India, including institutes of finance, institute of eminence, and institutes of national importance. Achieving balanced students' mobility is one of the priorities of the Ministry of Education, Government of India. As part of the initiatives to attract foreign students to study in India, a Study in India scholarship is provided to meritorious students seeking admission to India higher education institutions involved in the Study in India program. The allocation of the Study in India scholarship is done on the basis of performance in a standardized online exam for students seeking scholarship under the program. The Study in India scholarships are provided to the students seeking admission to undergraduate and master's program. The Study in India programs encourages foreign students to explore valuable educational opportunity provided by the top Indian universities. The Ministry of Education, Government of India has been sponsoring a scheme, namely the Global Initiative for Academic Network, we call it GAIN, to promote academic collaboration between India and other countries. GAIN aims at tapping the talent pool of scientists and entrepreneurs internationally to encourage their engagement with higher education institutions in India. GAIN seeks to increase the foothold of reputed international faculty in higher education institutions in India, create avenue for possible collaborative research with the international faculty, and develop high-quality course material in both print and video format, and that can be used by a larger body of students and teachers. Over 2,100 courses have been approved under GAIN, of which around 1,600 courses have been conducted under the scheme for promotion of academic and research collaboration, SPARC. Joint research proposals are formulated to facilitate research collaboration between Indian research group and research group in the leading universities of the world. The scheme seeks to enable productive academic and research collaboration between Indian research group and research group in the leading universities of the world by supporting, number one, visit and long-term stay of top international faculty / researchers in Indian institutions to pursue teaching and research. Secondly, visit by Indian students for training and experimentations in premier laboratories worldwide. Third, joint development of world-class books and monographs, translatable patents, demonstrable technologies, or action research outcome and products. In the first call for application, we received around 1,200 applicants, out of which 392 were approved. Technical and vocational trainings is another area where India is focusing in a big way. Our school, higher education, and skill departments are pooling their resources and expertise in this regard. We are setting up skill hub where learners can acquire 21st century globally relevant and in-demand skill. The focus is on stackable microcredit and on digital skill infrastructure like virtual skilling lab. We sincerely believe that fostering contact between our youths today and promoting academic collaboration will help all of us deepen our relationship even further. India looks forward to enhance academic engagement with her neighbors where we can learn from each other. With this few words, I'm thanking all the organizers for patient listening. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. I now invite Dr. Vidya, Pro-Chancellor, Symbiosis International University, to deliver a vote of thanks for this special session in this track. Dr. Vidya.
So thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for gracing this occasion, though virtual. And as Dr. Muzumdar sir very rightly said, that we would really like to invite you in person to the Symbiosis International University, more specifically because of the Symbiosis Ishanya Education and Cultural Center, which was earlier just conceptualized, but now it is in physical form with a very large auditorium, hostels for Northeastern students, and we also provide scholarships for Northeast students. But apart from this, your eloquent speech today, which covered the whole of national education policy and the role of the government, specifically the Ministry of Education, in the envisioning the national education policy, we are now, of course, awaiting the realization of this great dream. The only little request, sir, from all of us, which I want to make to you because you are also the Minister MOS Education, is that in universities like Symbiosis and several others, whether it's BITS Pilani, Manipal, or some of the largest universities, have a tag called deemed to be universities. I would request you, because the NEP has already given a recommendation that the word deemed should be dropped. This is because because when we look at internationalization and when we want to attract foreign students, generally foreign students come to these top universities in India. And the first question that any foreign student, or for that matter, any ambassador asks us is, are you a university or are you a deemed to be university? And therefore, I sincerely request you, sir, that to see more and more foreign students coming to India, these kind of restrictive regulations need to be released, facilitated. And please, request from all of us is to remove the word deemed so that we see more number of foreign students coming.
Excuse me, national education policy headed by Dr. Kasturirangan has recommended to remove the word deemed. He says that there is nothing like petrol university, Carbon University or deemed university. All universities are university.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, there was some the differences between the ordinances passed by the parliament. So I will consult with my senior ministry, Shri Dharmendra Pradhanji, and
Yes.
we'll see how it can be solve the problems.
Because that creates confusion among foreign students.
Yeah, I understand it. I understand it.
Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your time here, and we hope to see you in person at Symbiosis.
Okay.
And sometimes come physically.
Okay, sir. Please. Okay.
So thank you very much, Anita, and it was a wonderful session. We had a person who's the Minister for External Affairs as well as Education, so very good combination of both. And as a curtain raiser to this track, I think his speech was absolutely, at the right place and at the right time. We have excellent people again in this track, and we have people from the neighborhood. Today we are going to discuss sparking neighborhood dialogues in internationalization of higher education, India and its neighbors. We all know that we've not done much of work in our neighborhood, at least in the space of education. When the Prime Minister launched the neighborhood first, concept, I think the whole focus for everything, whether it was trade, business, education, he probably meant that, you first have to look to the neighborhood and then move on to looking at collaborations otherwise. If you really look at the statistics, not many students from our neighborhood come to India. And the statistics shows that Bangladesh has about 3,000 students, Sri Lanka has 1,500 students, Myanmar is just about 400, Maldives is 428, and therefore we see that the numbers are not really encouraging. The largest contingent of students that comes to India is of course from Nepal, again just 28%. But apart from attracting students, can India do something more in the space of higher education and help in universities in our neighborhood, in the countries surrounding us? And I'm sure we can play the role of a big brother, where we as a country has one of the largest higher education system in the world, a very complex one, but nevertheless with more than 1,000 universities, more than 50,000 colleges, I'm sure we can certainly help our neighborhood. Today we have people from different walks of life, academicians and diplomats who are going to talk about how can India be of help to the neighborhood in the space of higher education and more specifically internationalization of higher education. I will introduce the speakers first and then move on to having dialogues with them. Professor Bhola Thapa is the Vice Chancellor of Kathmandu University in Nepal. I'm very happy to note that he has done his master's in mechanical engineering from BITS Pilani from India. So we are indeed happy that you have been educated in India and then you went on to do your PhD from the Institute of Energy Process Engineering, the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. Professor Thapa joined the Kathmandu University in September 1994 and has rose to the position of being the Vice Chancellor of Kathmandu University. So welcome, Professor Thapa.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Professor Nilakshi Prema Vardhena. Professor Nilakshi is a cadre chair and a senior professor at the Department of Modern Languages at the University of Kelaniya in Sri Lanka. She has extensive international experience and is specialized in language and linguistics. She has done her PhD from University Siegen, Germany. Her current interests include international communication, cross-cultural pragmatics, typology, diplomacy, and foreign languages. Professor Nilakshi, you will be happy to know that we have a Symbiosis Institute of Foreign and Indian Languages, as well as the Media and Communication Institute, where we can certainly invite you at a later date. We have two ambassadors with us also, His Excellency Mr. Gopal Bagle. He's presently the High Commissioner of India in Colombo. He was a Joint Secretary and spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs He has held various positions at the Ministry of External Affairs, and the last one was that he was Joint Secretary, External Publicity, and spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs. He was a diplomat and served various capacities in Ukraine, Russia, UK, Nepal, and Pakistan. And of course, now with Ukraine being in the forefront of every news, especially regarding medical students, I'm happy to know, sir, that you also can speak Ukrainian and Russian fluently. The next speaker is Mr. Vikram Doraiswamy, who is the High Commissioner of India in Dhaka. Mr. Vikram Doraiswamy joined the Indian Foreign Service in 1992. Prior to his joining the Indian government, he worked as a journalist. Mr. Doraiswamy was posted to the Commission of India in Hong Kong, and he can speak Chinese very well. He was also with the Ministry of External Affairs and was appointed as the Deputy Chief of Protocol. After 2 years of Deputy Chief of Protocol, he was seconded to the Prime Minister's office in 2002, and he served as a private secretary then to the Prime Minister of India. So we really have an excellent panel of academicians and diplomats, and who will give us an overview of India and its neighborhood and the role India can play in its neighborhood. So may I invite the first speaker, Professor Dr. Bhola Thapa, the Vice Chancellor of Kathmandu University.
Thank you. So it's really an honor and pleasure for me to speak on this very, very important deliberation session from the neighboring country. Now, of course, the Nepal's higher education is not that old. When we had our first higher education college, Trichandra College, that was established almost 100 years back, Patna University at that time. And even when Tribhuvan University was established in 1959, a lot of our first group of faculties, professors, they were from India. Not only the Tribhuvan University, like a Kathmandu University, when we were established in 1991, after the political movement and then the change in political system. We had our mission to provide a quality education in the country, and then also to be world-class institutions. But still, we have had quite a lot of support from Indian institutions and universities to develop our program. The status at the moment, like Nepali higher education, is like, of course, our enrollment rate is quite low, like it's 18%, but our the 15th national plan says like the target is to reach to 40%. And for that case, the higher education system still has just entered into the accreditation system, and then we have a lot to do, and we have to learn so many things from the institutions and universities in India. Even then, with the history of 30 years of Kathmandu University, we have already graduated almost more than 36,000 graduates in different disciplines at the different levels. But I am very glad to share here with the friends here, all this development of higher education in Nepal, that there has been significant contribution from India, especially the program when programs at Kathmandu University was planned and then started, like BITS Pilani, that there was a contribution from the faculties there. There was a contribution from Manipal group. Even in medical education, we produce almost 50% of the medical graduates in the country, and then we have taken quite a lot of help from the Indian faculties for reaching to this stage. So out of the, and it's not only for the Nepal, but we have also provided this education to the foreign students and especially the neighboring students. Out of 36,000 graduates, like almost 13% are from the foreign countries, and and among them almost 6,100 the Indian students have graduated from Kathmandu University. That means like the cooperation and the support which we got from the Indian institutions, we have also been able to give it back to the Indian society also. It's not only in India, Indian students, like we have graduates from Sri Lanka and Pakistan, Bangladesh. Mostly they are in medical education. But the trend and the present situation of higher education is really interesting and is really challenging. As the chair of the session have already mentioned, that the Nepali students in Indian higher education is significant. But we are really worried here in Nepal, because among those eligible candidates coming to higher education, they are there in India. They are going for Indian institutions, but quite a lot of Nepali students are going to the Western universities, and especially our largest number of students are in Australia. I think it was in 2019's record, almost about 60,000 plus students are studying abroad, and then among them Australia is the largest, and of course India is also significant. But the worry for us is, of course, Nepali students can go abroad and can have good education. But like, for example, this year and this first 3 months, almost first 4 months of 2022, almost 38,000 Nepali students went abroad, and that's okay. But we do have a lot of pressure on foreign this exchange reserve now, because they are taking quite a lot of foreign currency for education. It was almost 30 billion Nepali rupees that went outside, and it is giving a pressure on the national treasury also. And we have been discussing and we have been learning from the case of Sri Lanka now. And then the one of the most let's say important factor that is taking our foreign currency besides the fuel is the education. So in these connections, like we do have this need for regional cooperation, for not only for providing education for economic sustainability and viability, because we do have a common characteristics, we have a common problems, and we have a development challenges. Our societies are almost similar, and then whatever we do here in Nepal, that will also affect in India, or whatever happens in India, that will also affect Nepal. And of course, our values, our culture will also help us to develop or collaborate, to develop and then cooperate for higher education in the regional level and in the neighboring level. So the cooperation which we envision or which we expect is, again, I was really glad to hear the Honorable Minister, like the plan of the Indian government, and then in this Indian higher education institutions to reach to the neighbors and to bring the foreign students, and even not only bringing foreign students in India, but the foreign higher education, the Indian higher education institutions to reaching to the neighboring countries. So it will strengthen the network, and then I think it will be the win-win situation. It will not only just produce a graduate, but it will have a significant contribution for economic activity, because the graduates which we produce, especially in the context of Nepal, is like we use a lot of natural resource, like the hydropower or our climate issues. Like if we work together, it will contribute for all. Kathmandu University, unlike in this 30 years, we have been quite proactive on international cooperations. And among the MOUs or partnership which we have, the Indian institutions, Indian universities are most prominent. Like we have quite a lot of activities. Like as I said, in the early days, we have got support from Indian professors to teach here in Nepal, to design the course. But Kathmandu University also has got some experience of running its program in Manipal. When we were developing our program in medical education, and then we had a plan to develop our own faculty. So we had our Kathmandu University, this PG programs on medical was running at the Manipal using the hospital of the Manipal group. And we have all produced a good number of faculties for that. And then most of the academic institutions here in Nepal that we have got, like me, many of us have got the education, at least one education in India. So that is sort of a cooperation that we had in the past. And recently, as I heard from the Honorable Minister and then other colleagues here, the Indian universities and Indian higher education institutions, especially, we have been discussing with the IITs. They want to establish a sort of activity here in Nepal, and then we are collaborating and cooperating. There are also some regional sort of forums, like a Himalayan University Consortium is there. Several universities that we come together for the matters of the mutual interest, and then either it's on education or research, on engagement or reaching to the community. So we do have some collaborative programs, and of course, the funding for such program is sometimes coming to the international funding agencies, but we feel like there is a need of a regional cooperation, it's little stronger regional cooperation, so that the neighbors which we are already on this mission can be little stronger. Otherwise, like for example, the program similar to the EU or Erasmus program. So we might also need a similar program in our region. What I believe is, at least I am, I myself is a quite example like of the support, like which the neighbors can give it to the other neighbors. During when I was having my education undergraduate program, there were no engineering program at all in this country. There are no medical program in this country, but now we not only produce good graduates for our own country, but also we are contributing to the neighboring country. So the globe, at least now, doesn't have a political boundary. Like after the pandemic, the things have changed now. So with good network and communication system, any students can study anywhere around the world. So in that connections, if we on the neighboring countries can join hand, I think it will be beneficial for all of us. So with this starting remarks, I will stop here, and if there will be any other further queries, I will try to respond to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor, and we will come back to you with questions. In fact, there are a lot of questions that have come to me regarding some points that you have raised. But let me move on to Sri Lanka, because you did mention in your talk that there was a great learning from Sri Lanka. And so we move on to His Excellency, Mr. Vikram Doraiswamy, for his thought.
Thank you very much for this very interesting program, and thank you for including me and thereby the India-Bangladesh relationship into this discussion. I'm also delighted to have my colleague and old friend Gopal Bagle on the panel. And I was also very interested by the remarks that our State Minister presented. Very quickly, I think the key point here that we need to emphasize is the value that we all get from better regional education things. I think Professor Thapa just made that point, and I think it's a very valid point for all of us to bear in mind, that we need to be able to see the commonality that we share in terms of the value that we all place upon education in our South Asian region. The fact that at all levels of society, education is the one thing for which all people will put in as much resource as possible to drive the futures of their children. The other part of it is that educational collaboration has had a very strong opportunity in terms of building not only socio-political connectivity based on our existing cultural connectivity across the sub-region, but also as a driver of future business and political partnerships. As we all know, the friendships and opportunities that we develop at university tend to be a very strong driver of future business opportunities. And therefore, in this far more globalized world, far more than it was, say, 30, 40 years ago, this is a major driver of cross-regional integration, of which our region actually is a laggard. We have far less integration in terms of transport, in terms of business, than most other sub-regions or regions of the world. So education could actually be one of the foundational blocks through which greater regional connectivity can be promoted. I'd like to also make the point here that as far as our problem has been in the region, it has been the effort to internationalize education. In all of the countries in South Asia, education has primarily been domestically focused rather than as an internationalized commodity. Indeed, if you look at how countries like Canada or Australia have developed education as one of the strongest means by which they drive international partnerships, all of us in the sub-region could learn a lot. Towards doing this, I think there are some specific suggestions I'd like to make in exploring this problem. First of all, internationalization of education requires far more of an effort on research opportunities. We haven't yet leveraged the opportunities for bringing bright people together and taking forward research opportunities, for instance, in cutting-edge areas of robotics, artificial intelligence, etc. There are very bright young people across our sub-region, and we tend not to leverage those opportunities when we're looking for opportunities for educational and research collaboration. Second, we haven't actually looked at all of the facilities that our various government departments have in terms of driving internationalization. The Department of Science and Technology, for instance, has a number of exciting programs to drive international research. Most of these tend to be West-focused. In other words, looking at research opportunities in the US or in the UK. While that is valid, we do need to think about how we, as universities and educators, put in a pool of funding for research opportunities that bring together students from Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Bhutan, so that there is actually an opportunity to connect with bright young people who are otherwise anyway going across and doing the same kinds of research in the US. Third, we need to try and find ways in which we can broaden the educational connect. In other words, not just focus on university level at undergraduate and postgraduate level, but also to start at high schools, so that we are leveraging young people for a longer period of time to build a longer period of connectivity across the borders. This could also then take forward to higher education cooperation in postgraduate and research levels, where we have opportunities and scholarship systems across the government and across universities to benefit our young people in creating fresh pathways to cooperation. I would also say internationalization of our campuses. As Professor Thapa was saying, our young people are often given opportunities, will pick opportunities that are well known to them. And it is reasonable, therefore, to say, for instance, an IIT or an MIT or a Kathmandu University will have a drawing power that other universities may not. Now, creating those linkages, in fact, creating twinned degrees, joint degrees, even satellite campuses, is something that is being neglected. And I think this is one of the strongest ways in which we can actually leverage brand value across the sub-region. Our challenges are a few also, and I'd like to identify a few specific challenges. One is ensuring quality. Now, with 1,000 universities in India, we need to be clear that not all universities are going to be at the same quality. And therefore, anybody who's looking for value, as I think Dr. Yeravdekar just said to the State Minister, branding is so important. People are going to ask you, what do I get if I come here with my money? What do I get if I send my child there? And that we need to be able to be clear that we prioritize what we can take abroad in terms of the best few places so that we can build a culture of bringing people to India rather than trying to promote all at the same time. Second is the quality of facilities that we provide to international students. Because our universities are competitive places and the demand is so high, we haven't actually focused enough on ensuring that the quality of facilities that we provide international students are up to the mark compared to what they might actually get in third countries. To sort of ameliorate some of this, I think alumni associations, high quality platforms that virtually give students opportunities to look at how they can benefit at a university, that I think needs to be done. Foreign universities in the West do this very, very well. We should be able to do better in terms of that. Then I would say a major challenge that we face here in encouraging Bangladeshi students to look at India is the study opportunity and an internship opportunity after that. At present, I mean, if you put it the other way, if your own children were to go abroad to study, one of the big drivers for them tends to be, can I stay back and work for a year or two as an intern? Or can I get some work experience before I come back? Now, we need to be able to dovetail our educational programs with internship programs that allow children the opportunity. There's a very good reason why so many children from India or Nepal or Bangladesh go to each other's countries for medical education. Because with medical education, you get pretty much hard-baked an internship opportunity. So I would say this is a key sort of opportunity for us to take forward. And finally, vocational training. We need to look at how much more we can make vocational training an internationalized product, because work opportunities that connect up across the neighborhood wouldn't necessarily only require you to get an MTech or a BTech or a top-tier educational degree. High-quality vocational training is also missing currently from our portfolio of things that we offer across the border. Let me conclude by saying there's a lot that is going on right now within the government in terms of offering scholarships and opportunities. But I think for the South Asian sub-region, we need to do much more, even in universities, through foundations, through commercialization of opportunity with businesses in Pune, for instance, to offer scholarships for bright, deserving young students from South Asia to drive the cost competitiveness and the cultural connectivity that we already enjoy as an advantage vis-a-vis further away countries to bring students to each other's country. Let me stop at this point. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I regret very much having to rush things a little bit. Thank you.
Mr. Doraiswamy, I think you very well encapsulated, things that we are also concerned about. You so rightly said, that the challenges are not just about quality education, but even infrastructure. I mean, simple things like providing good hostels, good, multi-cuisine food, etc. These are things that we face when, students come to Pune and talk about their experiences at other colleges, in the city. And while this is important, I think one of the most important points that you raised was the internships. And we've taken this up several times with the Government of India. We had a roundtable where I represented in the Niti Aayog and at several places. I hope that, things will change here in India, because it's not just about internships, but post-study work. I mean, if a student goes to America, I think the biggest attraction to going to US is not just quality education, but more importantly, getting to work in the industry there. And therefore, I think we need to open our doors for foreign students, at least in the neighborhood, so as to attract more of them. Scholarships are provided through the Study in India scheme, as well as Symbiosis International University has a specific foreign student scholarship program, which of course I will discuss with you one-on-one. But thank you so much for all the inputs that have come from you. I will move on to, unfortunately, and that's why the confusion, because unfortunately, Mr. Gopal Bagle, the High Commissioner in Colombo, had to rush for something more important that he was called for. And so, like our go-to man, I immediately messaged Ambassador Gautam Bambawale, who has also had the experience of serving as an ambassador to Bhutan, Pakistan, and China. So with his experience in the neighborhood, I will request Ambassador Gautam to give his views.
Great, thank you. So, I think some of the points I'm going to make are going to be repetitive, are going to repeat the points made by the earlier two speakers, Professor Thapa and High Commissioner Doraiswamy. But I think that underlines how important it is for India to pay attention to these aspects. And I think you yourself mentioned this in your remarks. Now, let me start by saying that, the government of India has a policy called Neighbourhood First. And I think this applies to internationalization of higher education at Indian universities also, that we need to focus on our neighborhood first. And if we can get the neighborhood right, then we can expand all this internationalization of higher education to other parts of the world, to other parts of the globe. So sparking those regional dialogues, as you have titled this particular track or session, is absolutely essential and important. There, I think what any university in India, while looking at internationalizing its student body, needs to do is, of course, pay a lot of importance to two things which have been said earlier. One is, of course, the quality of education. There, of course, symbiosis is in the forefront. The quality of our education, like at many other excellent schools across India, are concerned, is very, very high. But as High Commissioner Doraiswamy rightly pointed out, that this is not equally good across all Indian universities. So a foreign student has to be very careful when choosing a university to apply to in India. So the quality of education is something that we have all paid a lot of attention to. And the government of India's new education policy continues in this on this track, or continues in this direction, because it aims at enhancing the quality of higher education at Indian higher educational institutions. So this is the first thing we need to pay attention to, which is the quality of education. The second, of course, which has been pointed out earlier, is the cost of education. So there are obviously a lot of people in the neighborhood who perhaps have the ability to pay the cost of education as it exists in some of the private universities in India, or even at public universities in India. But there is a large segment of people who are very promising, who are very, very, very high scholarship levels, but they are also in need of appropriate costing of the education. They need scholarships, they need assistance, financial assistance for undertaking this higher study. So if Indian universities can first focus on our neighboring countries, where these costs will be relatively lower because travel is easier, etc. We have certain similarities which can also be leveraged. So if this cost can be met for certain students from our neighborhood and can be done successfully, then of course I think we can then move to the next level, which is trying to get students from further afield, from countries which are further away from India, whether it is Southeast Asia or whether it is Africa or any other part of the world. So I'll leave you with those two thoughts, that quality of education and the cost of education are two broad aspects of two broad areas in which we need to focus our work of internationalizing higher education, as well as sparking the regional discussions over this that are required. So I'll stop there, Dr. Vidya, and hand it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Mambawale. And you rightly pointed out, and therefore, if you see the students that come from these neighboring countries generally come on the ICCR scholarship program. And unfortunately, the ICCR scholarship doesn't go to private universities. It goes to only public universities. And therefore, students from the neighborhood are not present in private universities in large numbers. Whereas Symbiosis has made an effort to have a kind of a joint scholarship with ICCR, where we give scholarships on tuition fees and ICCR on the food and the stay, but not many universities have come forward, though we are pushing this through my membership on the General Assembly of ICCR, stating that they need to support students in some good programs in private universities as well. So from here on, we move now to Sri Lanka with Professor Nilakshi here with us, and she's an academic, comes from our field, and we would like your thoughts, Professor Nilakshi, on India and its neighborhood, more specifically Sri Lanka.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies and Madam Chairperson. and distinguished guests. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I would like to share my presentation because as an academic, I believe that visually seeing something is more important. So I have jotted down some points where we could collaborate, and this is the practical side of it. And supposing I get disconnected, my video recording is there. Akshay would play that because I'm sitting through a power cut at the moment. That's why you can't see me clearly as well. So let me share the presentation with you. As I said, this is regarding the Sri Lankan perspective of sparking neighborhood dialogues in international higher education, India and its neighbors. So let's look at some practical aspects of this. In Sri Lanka, we have 17 state universities, and there are also several non-state higher education institutions offering local degree programs, which have been approved by the University Grants Commission. And the problem that we have is we collaborate more with EU universities or the Western world, with Australia or with the Americas as well, hardly with our neighboring countries. So if you take University of Kelaniya, for example, we have only about 3 or 4 universities we are actively cooperating with at the moment. And many European universities, Australian, New Zealand, and American universities that we have a lot of active partnerships going on. And EU mainly because of the Erasmus Plus programs that we have and due to the several grant schemes that you get. But we have this one support scheme that we have been benefiting from for a long time, India Sri Lanka Foundation, who funds student visits sometimes and also some scholarly visits both ways. And also the German Academic Exchange Service DAD in New Delhi facilitates regional collaboration, mainly focusing on German studies, but other fields of study as well, and also workshops on internationalization, etc. And partnerships through MOUs with universities in India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Pakistan, as I said, commonly to all the universities, all the state universities in Sri Lanka, are less than the percentage we have of partnerships with the other countries. So I think it is now time to initiate this and collaborate further in the future. And with Bhutan, we have a government-to-government agreement to have students from Bhutan to the faculties of medicine and also for dental studies at the University of Peradeniya. So these are the collaborations we have at the moment. And talking about this India Sri Lanka Foundation, I once had the privilege to accompany some students from the University of Kelaniya in 2010, more than 10 years ago, for a UN Millennium Goals debate at Miranda House of Delhi University. And it was, as I said, funded by this India Sri Lanka Foundation. So undergraduates from Sri Lanka and India met together. They talked about, they discussed, debated on UN Millennium Goals, but the main thing was they got to know each other, the cultures, they exchanged a lot of information. And still, after 11 years, they still keep in contact with some of these students. So this is what we should promote, I think, a cultural exchange as well. And talking about regional cooperation, these are the avenues that we can really collaborate on. I focus mainly on student exchange. Staff, both academic and administrative, is important. Collaborative research, joint publications and conferences. And as I mentioned earlier, more focus should be on the student population. This is pivotal to prepare them for the roles as stakeholders of the future. And what are the advantages of regional cooperation? Understanding across borders and cultures is much easier because we share same values, same backgrounds as well mostly, and English as a common language, as lingua franca, is available to all the countries in the region. Then the cultural and historical bonds that we share, these are very important. We don't have to explain things much because we understand each other better. And getting to know your neighbors is very important. You can get to know the others as well, but the neighbors are very, very important to help each other. And developing skills to work in diverse working environments, because now we move from our country to other countries and we have a lot of regional citizens working in Sri Lanka as well. So it is very important to get this training to work in diverse working environments, and the cooperation would promote this type of facility in the future. And it is, of course, most cost effective than going to Europe or to the Americas and also to New Zealand or Australia. So regional cooperation should be really promoted. And looking from the student perspective, these are the areas that we can collaborate on. We can have short-term exchanges, for instance, summer schools, or even one-day programs or one-week programs, short-term programs as well. And building cultural bridges across the region that pave way for academic discourse. So firstly, a cultural exchange, and then you can move on to specific fields of study and discourse on that and different projects as well. We can organize virtual events or virtual mobility as well, which pave way for international credit transfer, which functions very well with European countries, but I think we should move on to international credit transfer in the region as well. Whether it's on-site or virtual, this mobility of students, it brings students from each university together for cultural exchange and getting to know each other and build a lasting friendship. And cultural awareness develops mutual respect and develops skills in working in diverse multicultural settings, which is significant in today's global context. And as we know, the young generation moves from one country to another today for study purposes as well as for employment. And at the end of a mobility that we propose, the students are expected to gain cultural competency, team spirit, and if you are working virtually, enhanced ICT skills, as well as improving their linguistic skills, among other skills that they can gain. And looking at the other perspective, the staff, which is also very important, the other stakeholders, administrative as well as academic staff, we can have short-term exchanges and again help to build cultural bridges across the region, virtual events like what we are having today, virtual mobility, guest lectures, and conduct joint research and collaborative research projects. And of course, nothing goes without challenges, but as you can see, the challenges are very few compared to the advantages I discussed earlier. MOU approval process. If you want to make the partnership formal, you need a memorandum of understanding or a memorandum of agreement. That takes a long time in Sri Lanka. It has to go from the University Grants Commission to the Education Ministry and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as well, after it is approved by the University Council. So that takes a little bit of time. But still, there are other ways that we can cooperate, like the short-term exchanges, which do not need an MOU. And of course, the funding, as I said, is limited. That is why we go for this Erasmus and Erasmus Plus funding in Europe. And if it is virtual, as I'm having this problem today of the power cut as well, the accessibility will be an issue. And when you plan to execute a partnership, this is what we really require among many others. I have listed only the most important ones: mutual trust and genuine interest from both parties. And you need to invest time, and you need to have respect for each other and each other's cultures and pace of work, etc. And you should be adaptable, flexible, responsible, and you need dedicated and motivated students and staff. Any plan which is very brilliant can only be executed if you have dedicated and motivated students and staff who support this. And what would be the outcomes of such partnerships? By being regional partners, we can become potential partners of EU-funded projects. Sometimes we have to look for another Asian partner, and when you have regional partners, it's very easy to contact the EU countries and say that we have partners here. Would you like to promote a project? Because they have to submit, most of the time, they have to submit these project proposals, the EU universities, and potential partners we can find from the region. And of course, it would promote knowledge transfer in the region, knowledge sharing, and enhancing intercultural competencies, broadening horizons, enhancing social skills and team spirit, personality development and linguistic skills development of that. And of course, for the students, better career prospects and to become an outward thinking global citizen. We do not belong to our countries anymore. Our students do not belong to our countries anymore. They are global citizens. So this will be a chance to get to know each other and to be an outward thinking global citizen. So I would like to share a few images of some of the cooperation that we have been having so that you can have an idea how such regional cooperation can take place. This is an ongoing project with University of Indonesia on cultural exchange. Students from different faculties selected 25. I think my internet connection is unstable. I would switch off the camera. participating at this project now. Altogether, we have 55 students from both universities participating. Teams, they selected them actually on fashion, food, some historical sites or cultural events, festivals, as well as traditional dances. So those were the topics they selected. So each group will work on this. We launched this project a few weeks back, and in the third week of May, they'll be presenting the joint presentations in each group. And at the moment, they are exchanging ideas on how to prepare this joint presentation. So that is a discourse between them. They met only once virtually on one platform, and then they'll be meeting again at the final presentation with us. But at the moment, they are working on this project. So this was from the launch that we had. And this is also one where we connected with 4 different universities under the auspices of the Alumni Academy of University of Siegen, Germany, bridging 4 countries together, 3 continents, Tongji University, China, Fayum University, Egypt, Mother Teresa University, North Macedonia, and University of Kalani, Sri Lanka. Altogether, 41 students participated at this project, a similar one to what we are conducting with the University of Indonesia, but with more universities involved in this. And this is another presentations on fashion, some screenshots of that. And also these eminent professors' guest lectures that we can share and join as well. This was organized by the DRDA, New Delhi. And one of the projects that we had with the University of Tallinn, Estonia, for students of German, again, exchanging facts about phases of memory of Germany, as well as Estonia and Sri Lanka, because the students of German were involved. And these are some of the examples of one-day, half-a-day events that we had, Christmas event. The students participating virtually because this was at the height of the pandemic last December. But you can see how much you can do virtually as well, which is very, very cost-effective. Doesn't cost anything apart from the data costs. And the whole world joining you. So we had a professor joining us from Portugal and many from Germany and all parts of the world. And here, the New Year's Eve event that we had with students singing live and performing their dances, recordings as well, and also guest lectures. So this was one of the Erasmus Plus academic staff incoming mobility who conducted her lectures online in French, but then I invited her to have a lecture in English on a journey through Portugal, language and culture. So this is what we can promote as well, because there's so much that we do not know about each other. And this is the one of the most recent events that we had, the end of the semester, end of the academic year event of the German section. As you can see, there are so many things that you can perform and collaborate together. So the sky is the limit. That is what I can say about the potential that we have in cooperating in the future. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor, for a wonderful presentation. And I think it was almost like we making a presentation here in India on internationalization. So there's so much similarity. But what I saw was that it is more of a South-North collaboration that you seek. And we yesterday discussed in one of the sessions how South-South collaboration should now be also prominent as much as what we collaborate with universities in Europe, US, etc. Because same is the case with India. So actually we're done with the 4 speakers giving their thoughts, and there are a few questions. I know Ambassador Vikram needs to leave, so I will take his question first to him. Ambassador Vikram Doraiswamy, the question to you is, how can issues related to faculty mobility, specifically from the country that you are present right now, be facilitated? Because we only talk about students being mobile from one place to the other. We don't see many faculty from Bangladesh traveling to India and vice versa. Can your embassy help in facilitating this?
Well, look, faculty mobility, definitely. The main thing is that the regulatory environment for such documentation needs to be put in place. Beyond that, there's really no difficulty as far as we're concerned. We're quite keen to have more faculty exchanges, particularly coming in from Bangladesh or Nepal into India. The real challenge is in terms of what kind of documentation you can provide to support it. For instance, if it's a short-term job or a short-term assignment, this is one thing. If it's a long-term assignment that involves what is it called? An employment terms, then those become difficult because those then have to meet the test of whatever has been specified by the Home Ministry as appropriate for long-term employment visas. So those are the only challenges that we have. Per se, facilitation otherwise should not be a problem.
Yes, sir, because you spoke about research and you spoke about internationalization through joint research, and this can happen only if we see faculty coming together. And generally, we see these faculty members traveling more for short-term assignments and not really on long-term sabbaticals. And therefore, I think a proactive step from your embassy, your High Commission.
We just to complete the thought, we've actually been in discussion, for instance, between Bangladesh's leading tech university, engineering tech university, Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology, and IIT Powai, to look at ways in which we could work together on things like robotics, where there's some good work going on here, and there'd be interesting work, of course, going on in India. Now, for that, to organize the documentation will be comparatively easy because there's an inviting institution and there's the possibility of an actual program of research. What makes it difficult for us is actually being able to get enough responses from our own system for people to actually look at such opportunities.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Professor Bola Thapa. Sir, you spoke about medical education, and I was quite surprised to know that there are a large number of Indian students studying in Nepal, and primarily maybe for medical education, because A, it is difficult here in India, and B, as it is not affordable. So in medical education, there is a question here that, can we look at, internationalization of medical curriculum? You mentioned about an association with Manipal. So could you elaborate that further? I mean, can there be a flow of medical students across the borders, because many of our students seek education in your country?
Thank you very much. Of course, the medical education in this country, like in Nepal, that was developed like when back in 1993, the then Prime Minister signed agreement with the Manipal group and then the DY Patil group. And like a whole of the medical education on the private sector was established. The curriculum which we had at that time was more of the curriculum which they were following in India, but it has been revised quite a lot, and then we have been adopting a problem-based learning pedagogy. So I think it's very well appreciated by many of the Indian professors also, because in early days we had most of our faculties from India again in medical education also. Of course, in the early days, even we had even more of Indian and foreign students in our medical schools. But now even Nepal has a medical education commission, and there are quite a lot of restrictions or let's say regulatory authorities, regulatory requirements are there. Those who want to take medical education in Nepal, they have to appear entrance examination. The centralized entrance examination conducted by Medical Education Commission in Nepal itself. But there are some provision, like those students who have passed the NEET can also use that score to get admission here. But there are some practical difficulties because this Nepal Medical Education Commission has started its functioning only from last year, and then that also during the COVID period. So I believe like there will be some sort of understanding, and then we will devise a system where we can also ensure the quality of medical education, as well as that there will be a sort of a impartial selection process. So our medical establishment of medical education was through the foreign students coming here, and then now we have reached to certain state. Like for example, this MBBS program is recognized by MCI, this in the Indian system, but our PG, the MD, MS, and then MCH, DM. These are not recognized directly. So those sort of with this, there is a discussion going on at the G2G level, like how can we recognize these degrees also. But anyway, that I believe there will be sort of opportunity in the regional level, like how can we use the facility available wherever it is for the benefit of the new students. So that's my thought and then observation on this particular issue. Yeah, over to you.
Ambassador Gautam, with your vast experience as a diplomat, we just have a thought here that, like the Erasmus scheme that has been developed so well in the EU, where students can be mobile from one country to the other, can such a scheme be developed in India and its neighborhood? Because we would like this mobility of students in any disciplines, moving from one country to the other, gaining experience, doing internships in various organizations in those countries. So do you think that could be a possibility?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question, Dr. Vidya. The way I look at it and the way I approach this subject is that, yes, at least initially, perhaps the government can do some kind of program like the Erasmus scheme, as you mentioned, where the EU is concerned. But eventually, any government's bandwidth is very small, is not that big. So I think that universities in our part of the world, not just in India but across, must increasingly look at garnering their own resources or getting their own resources for such programs, whether it is faculty, whether it is students going to do a semester abroad or going to do teach a semester abroad or here in India. I think eventually we need to have the private universities or the universities themselves raise their own resources, because there is only so much that the government can give its resources for, and it has only a very narrow bandwidth where these things are concerned. So this has been the experience of China, where the universities have expanded their own resources, have expanded the money which comes to them from private sources rather than from government, and then expanded schemes of this kind. So that's the way I look at it in the long run. And I'll stop there, Dr. Vidya, and hand it back to you.
Thank you, Ambassador Gautam. And I'll just take this question forward to our friend in Colombo in Sri Lanka. When Ambassador Gautam Ambawale just spoke about, so rightly said by him, that, we should not wait for governments, but here we have, at least universities from 3 different countries and an ambassador from the 4th. So can we really look at collaborating with each other? And more so when Sri Lanka doesn't have much of collaborations with India, do you think that this could be an opportunity for you?
Of course, yes, certainly. And I would promote that as well. As I mentioned, it is very easy to connect, to bond with the region, because we understand each other. We don't have to explain too many things. We share the same values as well. So there's this bonding when you meet the citizens from the region. It's very easy to connect. Even we feel very much at ease because we understand each other. And this should be promoted, because I had this experience with the 10 students I took from University of Peradeniya and Kalaniya to Miranda House 11 years ago. How much they connected, how much they still keep this friendship and value it as well, and how much they treasure this 1 week experience that they had in New Delhi at that time. And also, as I mentioned, that's why I gave these examples as well, to have it cost effective, to make it cost effective. We can plan on virtual exchanges at the beginning and then move on to other exchanges later on as well. Of course, universities have some research funding as well, and earned funding as well, where you could have at least 1 or 2 scholarships for 1 semester mobility abroad, because cost of living is not that high as in Europe. And also the academics and administrative exchange, that is also very important. I think we have so much to learn from each other. As I said, we share the same values, but there's so much to learn from each other and how we function. We do not even have a common curriculum, but then it would be good to share the curricula as well and exchange some ideas to improve ourselves. We do that in the German studies because my specialty is German studies. Because of the help that we get from the German Academic Exchange Service. But this should be explored further and expanded to other fields of study as well, because we belong actually to the region and we are a part of this region, but then we are one family. That's what I would emphasize here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. On a lighter note, let me tell you that Symbiosis celebrates 31st of July as the International Students' Day. And we have an international food festival along with many other cultural events. And let me tell you that the Sri Lankan stall for the food from Sri Lanka always wins the prize. So you know how intercultural exchanges also helps in bonding. So I'm glad that we had an excellent session. And I think this was for the first time we really focused on the neighborhood. And I wish to take this forward. I wish to accept Gautam Bawale sir's suggestion of how universities can certainly start talking to each other, maybe reserve some funds within our universities to create a nice dialogue between us and which will help our students as well as faculty members. So I end the session here and I hand it to the moderator, Anita.
Thank you, Dr. Vidya. Definitely a session that's given us a lot to think about and a lot to do. We will take a short lunch break now and we will come back at 2:45 for the next session, that is track 5, in which we will not only have a panel discussion, but we'll also see the launch of the Symbiosis Center for India-Australia Studies, where Consul General Peter Truswell will be joined by Dr. Vidya. So do join us back after lunch at maybe 2:43 or 2:44. We will start the session at 2:45. Thank you so much.